One day, this one of my friends, he was a music producer and he was a rapper, and fantastic rapper. He said, "Listen, there's this thing coming out. There's this thing actually called podcasting. You should try it."
And you'd never heard of the word before, right?
No.
You're saying podcasting. What the heck? Fishing?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, "What are you talking about? I just want to talk about football. What's podcasting?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's great. You can like buy a computer, buy a mic, record it, and Apple will put it on their thing." And I was like, "Apple? I mean, what is going on here?
Yeah.
I go, that's never going to work. I go, that's just never going to work for me. And by the way, I want to be in radio. That's my goal." And
I would like to welcome Simon Allen to the studio. I'm very honored to have you here today with us.
Thank you.
You're one of the original OGs when it comes to podcasting, sports commentating, and coaching.
Thank you. I guess I could. I don't want to be called that all the time. I'd rather be just, Simon Allen, the guy that talks about stuff and you find him somewhat interesting.
So we actually met each other. It was actually a dinner party.
Yes.
And by chance that we were stuck right next to each other.
Yeah.
And then
good chance. It was good. It was good fortune, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very good fun. I think I had a good night that night with you.
It's really good. Mutual friends. Yeah, fantastic.
How long have you? What got you into the podcasting? That's actually where I want to begin.
So, I have to go back to the idea that I was stuck working for a Fortune 5 company. Oh, we should all be that unlucky. and we had said, and I was really a big soccer fan. It was the one sort of connection I had to home, to Southfields, London.
Okay. Born in England.
Yes. Raised in an area where there was a lot of football going on, and then my dad was in that sort of business, and my granddad supposedly was in that business, so don't know much about him.
What did your dad used to do?
He was a hotelier that in the middle of London that would deal with soccer people and pop stars and stuff like that. So at a very young age, I was exposed to that. But of course, you don't want to go into your dad's business, especially. Back in the day, football wasn't like it is now. It wasn't glamorous. In fact, people in my neighborhood, I remember a football player actually moving into my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And one of my other neighbors was like, "Well, there goes the neighborhood," and they actually left because back then it wasn't £500,000 a week job. It was still considered a little bit a bit lower class. Yeah. But I always was enthralled with it. I always found it to be the best form of entertainment. It was 90 minutes and no one knew what the outcome was. It's better than cinema, better than, I think, reading a book, because no one in the world knows what's going to happen at the end when that whistle blows, and it's that excitement. In a movie, someone knows what happens. It's already
like fantasy, right? Like you're zoned.
Yeah, it's the possibilities are endless, and no one can say, "Well, this is what's going to happen." Whereas we're in Los Angeles, the entertainment capital of the world, and people say, "Well, movies are movies. Someone already knows what's going to happen.
Scripted."
Yeah, everything is sort of done for you. And sports, especially football, to me, I was like, it's just pure excitement. It's pure going into the unknown. And that was at a young age. And so back to working for a Fortune 5 company, I wanted to play. I wanted to play soccer, and I was very much past my prime. And so we decided to open up a club. It's called Elephant and Castle Football Club, pre-internet. You probably won't find anything on the internet.
This is in England, right?
This is here.
Oh, this is here. It's Los Angeles. Okay.
We saw that football was really emerging. And football really happened in 1996 here. There's been many sort of formations of football, whether it was the NASL. It was just starting in 1996. Around 1999, my brother and I said, we should start our own football club.
Yeah.
And that's how I met our mutual friend, by the way. Oh. I'll tell you about that. It's really kind of a great story. or at least an interesting one. And we started this club, and it sort of took off as a international kind of club. Players from around the world come to Los Angeles to vacation, a nice holiday, and so they usually want to play. So we had players from Japan and Korea and Iran and Armenia and Russia and Ukraine. That they were professional players that were just here on vacation for a couple of months, and they ended up playing with us.
Interesting.
And we had a really good time, and we did really well. We kept going to the finals, and we kept losing, and every time we would go to a match or we'd play, and by the way, I was not very good at soccer at all. Horrible, actually. But we'd go afterwards. We'd go to the pub, and we'd sit down, and as you do, you go to the pub after the game and you start talking about soccer. And then one day someone said, you should be on TV talking about soccer. You know everything. Yeah. And by the way, this was a time where you just couldn't click a button and you miraculously a bunch of stats. Stats aren't really, isn't punditry. Yeah. And so I thought, that's a great idea. And then one of my brothers said, well, you should definitely do that. And so we came up with an idea around 2005-ish for getting a radio show together. And then
how long had you been in the US at this point?
Oh, many years, a couple of decades. Okay. I'm fully entrenched in the sort of the United States of America and its culture. The one thing it's a sort of a running joke is like, no one is more British than a British person not in Britain. Not in Britain. We're so adamant. Like, of course I'm not going to watch American football. So one of my friends said, how many times can you go to the final and lose? Why don't you just go for this? And I was like, yeah, well, I want to be in radio then. And back when I was at the Fortune 5 company, can we plug those guys? I don't know. We should maybe pay us later or something. I'll be on the phone and someone's like, well, there's that radio voice. There's that radio voice. Yeah. I'm like, I don't have a radio voice. So I thought, yeah. So we went around and we started sort of recording these CDs and trying to get it. And then one day, this one of my friends, he was a music producer and he was a rapper, and fantastic rapper. He said, listen, there's this thing coming out. There's this thing actually called podcasting. You should try it.
And you'd never heard of the word before, right?
No.
You're saying podcasting. What the heck? Fishing?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, what are you talking about? I just want to talk about football, What's podcasting? And he goes, yeah, it's great. You can buy a computer, buy a mic, record it, and Apple will put it on their thing, and I was like, Apple? I mean, what is going on here? Yeah. I go, that's never going to work. I go, that's just never going to work for me. And by the way, I want to be in radio. That's my goal. And then this guy was like, yeah, you can practice. You can hone your craft. And thank goodness that the early sort of episodes of my show, they're long gone because they were awful.
and you have done over, it shows 500-600, but you've done thousands.
Yeah, I didn't count the first maybe
500.
No, I didn't count the first 5 or 6 years. Wow. I didn't count them. I just wanted to just put them out. We dated, and then they got lost in the internet. And I had a partner at the time that had all the sort of the masters. And then when I split up with my co-host, he took all those, so I never got here. So those are never going to be heard, and some of them are really good, and some of them are just awful, just arguing and like this. So then, funny, someone said we should start counting, and I'm like, well, let's say if I do one a week for 15 years. So I started in 2005. I do that, and then I would do a couple of interview shows and a couple of specials and a couple of different ones, and the Women's League at the time said, why don't you come and do a show for us? And I would put that. So.
But now, when you had the idea of radio, did you think that you were going to be a sports commentator, or did you feel you wanted to be like a normal radio host, playing music?
Yeah. The sky's the limit. I think I didn't want to pigeonhole myself into just one thing. I just thought, well, I love music. I could do both. And you know what? I kind of like politics. Could commentate on that. And I don't think I'm actually as there's a lot of people that have master's degree and double masters in politics and Harvard graduates. Nowhere close. So I was like, okay, maybe I can be one of the not smart people that comes out and talks about, whatever. But I thought anything's possible. Like I always say, like if someone came up to me and said, well, we got this show about country music. I don't know anything about country music, but guess what? Pay me some money and put a cowboy hat on me, and I could probably do a really good show. Yeah. So it was open for interpretation of like what I could do on radio. My thing has always been like, can you turn on while you're driving in LA? Can you turn that switch on your? It's so old fashioned now, isn't it?
Yeah, now it's Siri. Turn it on for me.
Oh my goodness, I'm doubling. I was like doing this. Yeah. Okay. I was like, can you turn on your? Did it again? Can you switch on your radio and can you hear me? I was like, that would be my ultimate goal, that someone could say, oh, Simon, I heard you on the radio today while I was driving on the 405. Oh, that was my goal. Whatever that content was, didn't really bother me. I thought that was it. That was my goal. And then so the soccer thing kind of took off. Trying to make something happen in the midfield, but you can see it's a little bit more compact on that side of the pitch. Here comes a little bit of a motion, a little bit of a tug of the jersey. Can he go by? Oh, nice slide tackle right over there. And here we go. Forget that shaking the rust off period for the Michigan.
Oh, they're jumping right through it. They're jumping right into it.
Well done, Alex. Well done. You called it.
Yes.
Yeah, put that one down.
I'm putting a point for me right now because
you won the whole.
I just challenged the Dalai Lama of soccer. There you go, folks. You just heard
and
it.
Won.
There we go.
And
one for 200 points for the Dalai Lama. I'll appreciate the 1 point.
Well done. Well done. Here's the ball coming down to the. Monetarily, not so much, but the fact that I.
Passion, right?
Just enjoy it. Yeah. I've listened to actually all your shows that you've done in sort of the running theme of just what success is and what what constitutes that you're a failure or a success, and no one's ever talked really about the money. Oh, you've made a ton of money. It was always like, have I enjoyed my life?
Yes.
Have I done well in that field to where I'm respected by 30% or 60% or 100% of the people? And I think that switched in me. I was like, well, I don't really care if you listen. I do want you to listen though. But or how much money I make, because that really never provided any happiness. Someone saying, here you go. But being insightful or being someone or hearing someone say, oh, that was a really good point. That's not going to fill up your bank account, but it's certainly going to put purpose in your life. And I thought, well, I'll go with soccer then. And in America, a little secret for everyone, soccer's always going to be on the ground floor. Like for 50 years, it's been on the ground floor. Like if you want to be a soccer player, I don't care if you're 34 years old. If you got talent and you got skills and if you're fit, you'll probably do it. If you want to be a commentator, you can do it. If you want to be a coach, you can do it, because it literally has been ground level, 50 years, and I don't want to say it's behind, but there hasn't been that much progression that where it's been closed doors. It's sort of still free for you to do it. So that was that. And I've been doing a show, I want to say on average once a week for 16 years now. Very therapeutic. And I'm sure that this for you is like you've had a hard week, you come out and you do this and suddenly.
Yeah, it's like, I love seeing the passion from people. I love seeing what they're doing in the journey and what they go through.
Sure,
and it really does take me to another world.
Yeah.
When we're sitting and we're talking, like I love it.
And by the way, it's not the real world that we're in right now. Like we're like, who's that?
Yeah.
What's
That's to
going
scare
on?
you just in case things go wrong.
I'm like, look at this. What's going on over here? Oh my word. What is this? Alas, poor Yorick. I knew him well. Emma, he was on his diet way too long. Is Arthur C. Clarke coming out to tell me what this is at any moment now? Now there's going to be no continuity now. We have to put it back exactly where it was. Sorry, you can't cut it anyway. So this is not the real world, right? Yeah. This is, one of my listeners said, oh, you're a very positive person. And generally in the real world, I am, but not 100% of the time.
That's right.
Because you're so positive, you're the Dalai Lama of soccer.
Yes.
What a amazing I just wanted to be the Benny Hill of soccer at that point. I just wanted to be like, go out and enjoy myself, have a little sing-song, whatever. Someone said, you're and by the way, I don't know who that was. I really want to sort of find who that was and thank him, because that sort of stuck. And I'm like, well, that's a good sort of, road to be on, to be the Dalai Lama of anything. Yeah. And So, but that's not the real world. Like, this is not real. This is, we want to portray ourselves as positive, but this isn't the real world. It goes back to soccer. Soccer is the real world. Like, people who talk about music or politics, not really the real world, but soccer is kind of the most real thing I know, right? It really is. It shows you about, it teaches you about passion. It teaches you about teamwork. It teaches you about love. It teaches you about camaraderie. It teaches you about honor, Everything I learned about honor, I learned through soccer, Albert Camus, And so it also opens up like, people think sports are just a pastime, right? But no, sports open up so many things. Like, they encompass so many different subjects. Lately, it's been about race relations and politics. It's something that you wouldn't really talk about in certain circles. Yeah. You can bring it with football. You can say, listen to what's going on in football, but it's a problem in the whole world. We're talking about, let's say, like racism. That's an amazing thing a teeny, quote unquote, meaningless sport can do. Yeah. So we like that, and so I think in this, it's not really the real world, but football, I think, to me is reality.
That's right.
Not even, I think people go, well, not even reality TV is reality, right? But I think sports, especially football, is for me. And that's why I'm so enthralled with it. I've seen thousands and thousands of soccer matches, and every time I see another one, every time I watch another one, something jogs me. Like, oh, wow, it's interesting.
So this is like when you're commentating now. So there's videos of you
just
commentating.
when I'm sitting down and watching a game on my own for no reason.
So that's natural passion that's coming out when you say, "Man, slide tackle! Wow, this guy's saving it. Whoa!" Like
yes, it is. It's something like where I can say, I've seen that somewhere before. I've seen that particular play before, and I can bring back a match I watched in 1989, let's say, and go, wow, and so it's like, well, that's amazing. I can recollect this, and it looks like that. And so I can bring in different subjects. Like this week on my show, I don't want to plug my show. You can go away. We were talking about racism. We were talking about how it's just affecting not only sports but everything, And so, to me, it's like that's a heady subject, right? If you want to talk about what the score was and throw a couple of stats, there's a place for you on the internet. There's a place for you in podcasting. But soccer can really, it's such a wide variety of things that are incorporated. Many years ago, actually 3 years ago, I produced a pilot where it was a World Cup pilot. It was for the World Cup that incorporated food and soccer, right? We would talk about soccer, and then we'd talk about and we'd make food like a regular, food show, and then we would eat the food while we're still talking about soccer. And everyone I talk to, you can't mix that with you're diluting soccer. Soccer is so pure, I'm like, no. Soccer invites other subjects, right? You can say that about other sports. You can say other sports, but for me, soccer invites other subjects in. So you can talk about music. I had a show called Sing When You're Winning, where I would play new music, and my idea was to get into that side of the radio, and then talk about soccer. And I'm like, it's never going to work. It worked. You can talk about politics and stuff. So the like your show, you talked to a wide variety of people from all circles,
right.
And that's kind of a rare thing, because if you look at the chat shows and stuff like that, it's always just
very simple.
Yeah, it's one line. Football, I talk to coaches, players, people that start clubs, and then I get their view on things a little bit outside, of the world, of that scope. So I think that's attracted me to it, and I think that's attracted a lot of your guests to what they do. One of your guests was talking about he was a logistics guy, and I thought, oh wow, he's a logistics guy. And by the way, I know nothing about logistics, nothing whatsoever. And in fact, if you said, Simon, come and talk to this guy about logistics, I'm like, yeah, no, thank you. Maybe not, right? Yeah. But for an hour and a half, this guy's talking about, what was his name? Philippe, yes. He was a really personable guy, right? I'm like, I'm going to give him 10 minutes. I watched the whole show, right? And I learned so much, not because he was talking about logistics. Yeah. His life and his passion was legit. But he brought other things into it that, like he brought one thing into it that I'm like, I can relate to that. And slowly brought it into his world of logistics. I'm like, okay, you got me for an hour. You know, you got me for an hour. And I think that's what I like about what I do.
Yeah.
Like I can bring you in and go, well, you don't maybe not like it, but how about we talk about something that you are kind of familiar with and then bring you into my world?
Yes. And I think that's what it was. You know, this place was, you know, all on perspective. Was really to get your perspective of, you like vegetables, I don't like vegetables. You know, and it really doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean it's right. It just means it is.
Yeah. Well, I think you and I are cut from the same cloth, Amar, because I genuinely like to talk to people, like genuinely. Yeah. And I know you do. Yeah. I know you do. Well, love is a strong word. There's people I don't love that I still want to talk to, but I genuinely like, and I tell a lot of people, back in the day when I first started, I'd get people that would sort of email me and say, can you give me some advice? And now it's kind of switched. People will call me and say, I want to give you some advice, and I charge $85 an hour. I'm like, okay. But my bit of advice was always like, do you genuinely like to talk to people?
Yes.
And by the way, one of big society's ills is that we don't really talk to each other.
That's right.
Right? But if you genuinely, you're going to do well in this world. Like if you, I'll tell you a story that was, I think it's kind of funny. There's this party I go to twice a year. You know, I've been going to many years, and I'm usually the guy that is a bit standoffish at first, but I genuinely like to talk to people. And then there was this party, people will come up to me and they'll go, oh, Simon, do you know this person? And they'll sort of, I don't want to say pawn them off on me, but and I'm like, oh yeah, and I'll talk to them for an hour. This. And then after about 5 years of doing this, so imagine 10 parties, the host comes up to me and says, I can't believe you talked to that guy for like 2 hours. I'm like, why do you say that?
Yeah.
He's not the most boring person in the world. I went, didn't see that. He's so boring. No one wants to talk to him. I'm like, well, how long did I talk to him? 2 hours. Well, I found things about that interesting. Yeah. And then someone said to me, maybe because you're boring. And I said, no, maybe, I don't know. But I thought, no, everyone has a story, don't they?
Yeah.
Everyone has something that there's something about you that I don't know that I will find absolutely fascinating. And I won't have that opportunity unless I say, hey, come on over, Amar, let's have a little chit chat. You know, a little chin wag about this. Now your business it's very foreign to a lot of people, right? So the minute you sort of open the door to what you do, and I'm going to ask you a question though, because that's what I do. Can you separate a person from their work? So
do you mean as in like when I see someone here and I see what they're good at and I see where they should be doing? So I think that's what you mean, right? So you mean like...
Okay, go ahead.
So when I see someone and I say, okay, this person is great at doing this, and it's very hard to... When I'm in business mode and I'm in CEO mode, that means that, you know, we have an agenda and we have to get to our agenda.
Yes.
It gets harder when you're seeing people and you like people. Because now I'm starting to like them and I go, okay, well, I like this person. And it starts to intertwine the worlds. But to separate them as... Actually, you know what? I do that, actually. And you
can separate the person and their work.
Yeah, and I think that they find it hard to accept that when I'm trying to... Yeah. Oh, that's actually a very difficult question.
Yeah. Actually, that's a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah. I think that people can say, hey, this is me being the CEO and this is me being your friend.
By the way, is that sign out front that says CEO parking, is that yours?
That's mine.
Oh, I actually parked there because it didn't say which CEO. So
that's why I don't.
Sorry,
I just park anywhere. That gives me the freedom.
I know. What's a CEO? I'm like, well, I'm a CEO. I can park there, right? It didn't say which one. Right? There you go. No, but here's the funny thing is like, can we talk about another one of your guests?
Yeah.
Our mutual friend, Nand.
Oh yeah, please.
I separate his work and the person that he is, and I go for the person that he is. And it's very hard to do in the modern world, right? Yeah. Because you're like, how do I know this person? Well, he's a lawyer. And then you call him and say, I need some advice. I need some law advice. And then you go, okay. And then you call him a week later and go, how you doing? Good? How's the family? Great. I need some advice. Because and then suddenly that person who's a lawyer says, oh, I'm known as a lawyer. And then he sticks to that sort of role. And then it's very hard to say, excuse me, Mr. Lawyer, do you want to come out and have a beer with me?
Yeah.
And they go, well, no, that wasn't our roles. So it's very difficult for a lot of people to say, oh no, it's just this, he's just this person.
When you're putting it that way, like even with our mutual friend, like when we go out for dinner, like we talk about normal stuff.
Yeah,
we don't talk about their roles. It's that part I think we do separate.
Yeah, that's good.
But it is a very challenging thing. I've never actually ever thought about that point before.
Well, we are our jobs here in America, aren't we? It's very difficult to be like someone that isn't their job, right? So I think that to me, and that's going back to being cut from the same cloth. That is a sign of a very good host, and I don't mean just in here, but like in life.
Are you praising me or are you praising yourself now? I'm just not sure.
Well, that wasn't a very nice thing to say, was it? I'll take everything back. Take everything back. Horrible. No, I think I'm very much praising you because I think when someone, listen, you yes, of course. You said, "Come on my show, Simon." I'm like, "Yeah, I got to see what the show's about." And so, if your episodes that I saw before, very good, all very good. By the way, after you watch this show, you out there, go watch the other ones. I saw a person that was not in a role, but you were like saying, "Okay, well, I want to know, yes, what you do, but I want to know you."
Yes.
And that's a very difficult thing to do as a host, as even a person, as a human being, because we're so sort of tight. Well, that's Simon the soccer guy. Yeah. Oh, no, I'm Simon the artist, Simon the designer, Simon the ex-banker.
Yes.
But then again, those are roles too, by the way.
That's right.
Well, how about just Simon, just a kind of the nice human being trying to get through life and trying to be happy and try not to annoy anyone too much.
Yes.
I mean, that's what I think is about. One of your guests was talking about how she was a cancer survivor, and I thought, wow, that's a really heady subject. And I like those. And I thought, that's really good. And then at one point during the conversation, she transcended cancer survivor. Yeah. She wasn't that.
No, she wasn't.
Yeah. And I thought,
she's a person.
Yeah. I thought, well, there you go. That's the highlight.
Yeah.
That's what I want. And I think, going back to my show, I'm always about the story, not the accomplishments. That's right. And I'm always looking at the human side of it.
But sometimes when people are seeing that side, they want to, it's like that drawing I believe that Alan is, or Simon is the, like the commentator.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, I want to be a commentator, not realizing like what the journey is of who you are that created you to be the person that you are.
Yeah. One thing that I think is sort of lacking in today's world, I'm going to sound like an old fogey here, get off my lawn, is that people want to take obstacles away from you on your journey. They want to go take it, this hurdle, you got to take it. No, that hurdle is going to make that journey. Yes. And you're going to get to that end quicker. It happens when you become famous, or it happens when someone thinks that they should help you out. I'm all for help, but you can't. The journey can't be smooth, right? It just can't be like people who go into their dad's business, and it's like, well, look at me, I'm successful. Really? Yeah. Okay, you didn't do anything I did, but okay, you're successful. Your bank account's successful, but so I think not taking away that obstacle is really important. Also, that journey is about self-discovery, whether it's in business or it's being a human being. When I first started off, someone said, "Oh, you're very negative." I'm like, and it's killed me. It's impossible. I can't be that. I can't be that. That's just not in my. It's not me. I don't believe that. I don't think that. So you go in and say, well, if people think I'm negative, I must be putting it through the mic. So that's not good. Yeah. I want to put positivity out in the world. Right. Dalai Lama of soccer. Yeah. How can you be negative? So to me, and by the way, I know people are, well, why is this guy talking about radio? And that's a worldly thing. This is like you want to portray positivity in the world, right? That's right. Just by going down the street, and if you're portraying positivity, it's infectious, right? So now imagine if you got it in a mic, it's affecting a lot more people, right? So that's why. So then I figured out that no, I'm just telling people who think I'm negative what they don't want to hear, right? So that's on them. So I took that criticism away. I was like, no, I'm actually very positive. I'm just telling you something that you don't want to hear, and you think it's negative. Now it's on you to do it, right? And so I think that was a bit of a hurdle as well. And a couple of years ago, someone told me, and I think, Amy, you might be interested in this one. It's like, sometimes when you get to the final point of the journey, it wasn't as good as the actual journey. Yeah. So they'll say, well, you want to be on radio. Once you get there, you might be just like, not that great.
You know, and I tell people here, it's like when I was doing sales, like when I was first, I used to sit there in the back of the car and I would make 500 phone calls, and I would have that adrenaline to go and go for the customer and try and bring the customers in. When I achieved them, knowing that it's over, it was like a story ended. Yes. And it was kind of sad.
It was anticlimactic kind of, like I made the sale. And by the way, let me ask you this. I think this is very interesting. When you got your check, was the check the trophy? Or I'll put it another way. Was the work your trophy? Like, was that $1,000 check, even though it was maybe a good amount of money to you, was it that special?
No, it was the chase.
Yes.
The chase for me was the exciting part. And it was like, even with the company, you know, like it was the building of the company. It wasn't what we turned out to be, to have a CEO part. Really, that for me.
You don't have CEO parking, by the way. I have CEO parking. So don't worry about that.
I've gone beyond the CEO parking, just park anywhere.
I know. Like on the street.
so I think it was So I think it was just it's the chase. Yeah. And I like the challenge. Yeah. And, you know, I'm not, I've never been a person who wanted to be in front of a camera or be on the mic. Yeah.
And well, then you're in the wrong business here, mate.
But it was the challenge. It was the challenge again. And we started the chase. Yeah. And I tell people here, like, when we go through the hardships and we keep going through those hardships, that keeps it exciting.
Yes.
And people don't realize, like when you play a video game and now you're saying, okay, I'm level 1. Oh, I've done it. And you're level 2, 5, 6, 10. You finish the game. Like, and but it was the journey of the game.
When you're done, it's like,
I always.
Now I gotta do
when's version 2 coming out?
I remember working back in 2000. I was working as stop motion animator, and someone said, "We got to do this. We got to finish it. It's going to the Cannes Film Festival. Can you come and help?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, of course I can. Right amount of money, I can do it." And while we were doing it, the one thing that really I still talk about was the producer. This big time producer came up to me and said, "Really want to thank you for coming on board, because we need to get this done quickly for Cannes Film Festival." And he was like one of those staunchy sort of, very business. He says, "Can I get you anything?" And I just looked at him and said, "Big gulp." It is. And 20 minutes later, he's delivering this big gulp to me, and everyone's looking, going, "How'd you get this producer to get you a big gulp?" And I'm just fine. And that, to me, was the accomplishment. And then when it was over and the final product, I was like, it was great. It's great. It's a great accomplishment for me to have my name on a screen somewhere. But I was like, but while we were doing it, the late nights, and that taught me how to, and by the way, that taught me how to be a professional. And that taught me how to talk to producers. Like, you just asked me what I want. I want a big gulp. I'm not asking for a Rolls Royce. Can you get me a big gulp? Are you a producer enough to? Yeah. And I thought that was a huge accomplishment for someone, like, oh, that was it. And it's silly. A big gulp was my reward, even though the thing I worked on went to the Cannes Film Festival. I never mentioned too much the Cannes part, mostly the big gulp. So I was like, yeah, that journey is it. And when you go on that particular route to accomplish your goals, it's never the route that you predicted. Like, I'm going to go here, here, here. That's right. There's always like this huge curve, and forget the up and down part. Just it goes one way or the other, And I think that is, to me, the most important part of being who you are. Yes. Right? You don't talk about, like, if we sat here and compared bank accounts, it would be kind of crass, right? Oh, these two jerks talking about banging. But we talk about how we got there,
Yes.
and who we talked to,
The journey.
and maybe who we helped or who we influenced.
Yes.
I mean, I've helped. I was on a radio show actually for many years in Philadelphia, and I would say that I don't take any credit for it, but those guys are on the show. One of them won a sports Emmy after he left. That was his kind of first foray into radio. He won an Emmy. Another guy ended up working as a commentator on TV, major network. Another guy is a very accomplished writer. Has written many books about football. So it was that journey, and sort of I want to say, well, maybe I influenced them a little bit. Maybe because I was the senior guy there, and these guys was kind of newer. So that's my accomplishment. All right. Now they'll tell you, no, it was all them. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'll take it. But we interacted somewhere down the line.
Right.
So I think that's part and parcel of being who we are. You have an opportunity to get out of that world that you're in on day to day, and with this mic, and do that, which I, you don't have to twist my arm to come back on this show.
I thought we booked you in next month already.
Every month for the next. Like, oh, it's that guy again. It's like, yeah, twist my arm, guy. So yeah, I think you have an opportunity to do that, and I think that's part and parcel of this. If you are doing this to become a star, YouTube star, or an influencer, whatever, I don't think you should do it.
Yeah. No, and that was never the purpose behind this.
Yeah.
This was really to show people's journeys and how they get to where they're going, or the struggles, like, that path you're saying, the left and right, that is really like why I make no plans. And I never make plans.
I'm the same boat. You make plans and it's like, why did I make plans? Why did I make this plan?
Yeah.
I should have just thrown my lot into the wind and just saw where it took me. And then wherever I landed, just sort of take that one.
It's like you think you've got it by the horns, and then you don't have it by the horns, and you never had. You thought I've saved up to buy the house, and all of a sudden the market skyrockets, and now you're priced out. Yeah. You just don't plan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think a lot of people will say, well, I know a lot of your guests and a lot of people after was like, well, I started off going to college to be a dentist.
That's right.
And then something happened and I became a children's book author. I'm like, and it's like, yeah, so, and then the weird thing is that people, like, you'll hear the same sort of story. They'll say, every so often, my family will tell me, what happened to being a dentist? By the way, I wasn't, just, no. And you have to sort of explain, no, well, it kind of went this way, and now I'm doing this. Oh, you should have stuck to that. Yeah. Why would I have stuck to that? If the path took me there, you sort of go with it. Right. You want to enter the sanctum sanctorum of your, of the sort of the inner peace that you want to find. It's not suddenly diverting from a path that you're sort of going on anyway, right? Yes. And so it's like, no, I just went, and then this is where I was, and I've known so many people like that to where. I'm not sure if I'm sort of very good friends, but I know of someone in my family that went and became a doctor. Like, imagine spending all that time being a doctor, and then just said, I like animals. And so the logical thing was, you'd be a vet, right? Yeah. No. Opened up a dog wash. Yes. Right? More successful than ever. Like, just can't be more successful than that. Like, absolutely loving life, making, money over money, enjoying it, working with dogs, working with great people. No one comes in unhappy to a dog wash, right? Yeah. Like, no one's going to come and say, oh, I'm very unhappy. Like, no, here's my dog, treat him well, And so I'm sure people will tell that person, well, what happened to being a doctor? Yeah. No, I'm really happy. And look, I'm having the same lifestyle as if I was a doctor. So I think you just go where you want to go, be happy. Don't worry so much about your bank account. Yeah. Like, I don't know about you. Have you, like, somehow bills get paid? Yes. And I'm being very sort of elitist about it. I know there's people out there that have struggles, but for somehow I've done that to where I was like, bills got paid.
And this takes me back to when I was a kid and I used to have a cell phone. I was like 14, they just came out and it had all lights on it, and the Ericsson 337. And it was people would never let anyone use their cell phone.
Yeah.
And I get it, it's 10 cents or 20
Yeah.
cents, 20p a minute back then.
It was $1.50 when I got it.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
But it was, I never worried about you using my phone.
Yeah.
I never worried about my bill.
Yeah.
I just said, I'll figure it out.
Yes, yeah. And I think if you take that sort of, I call it a struggle, but sort of like that worry that you have, somehow
Lights you up.
yeah, you get back to business. You get back to working.
Exactly right.
To where I was like, yeah, I've never been one to work above my means, or buy above my,
Live beyond means.
Yeah, I've never been like, well, if I buy a $600,000 Mercedes, I'll just work harder. I'm like, no, I don't want to work harder. I'm a high school soccer coach, and the pay is horrible. It is the worst.
Pay rise.
No, the pay is horrible. I can't believe just the amount of money I'm not making. There's been times where I'll give up a paying gig on a radio show or something to go coach for absolutely free sometimes. But again, I absolutely love it. And I tell my girls, and I coach girls, so I tell people I've had 150 daughters in my life. No kids, but 150 daughters, no sons. That you don't work hard. The idea in America is you work hard. And Sadhguru actually brought me onto this. He said, no, you work with joy. You work with joy. No, you don't work hard. You work with joy. And if you work with joy, it's not hard because there's joy in your heart when you're working. And suddenly all the stuff you thought was hard becomes kind of easy and you don't get stressed out about it. And so I sort of instilled that to 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old girls who are playing soccer. I go, no, you don't train hard. You train with joy. Yeah. You put that love of soccer that you have, keep it in your heart. You practice, and suddenly their mindset sort of changed. They said, "Oh, coach doesn't want me to work hard. They want me to work with joy, not have fun, because fun's different.
Yes,
you can have fun, but work with joy." And I thought, wow, I should have been doing that 30 years ago rather than sort of 5 years ago. It would have been a lot more different. I would have been a lot more focused on certain things. And I think a lot of people miss that in America. We've been trained in America. You've been here a long time, and I've been here a little bit longer.
Yeah.
We've been taught you work hard, you'll be a success. No one says work with joy and love in your heart and keep passion in your heart for the work that you do alive and you'll be a success.
Yeah.
Because that actually is the secret, right?
Yes.
So
when I came to America, I thought, okay, well, I was meeting all these business owners. And I thought, well, what did you do? And I was expecting to give me the secret of money.
Yeah.
Give me the secret of money. Like, what did you do in your business? I was 19.
Yeah.
So I was expecting to tell me, oh, do this. So everyone says, one guy says to me, okay, you know what? Spend more time with your kids. Well, I don't have kids.
Yeah.
Well, I thought, okay. Next guy goes, spend more time with your kids, but love freight.
But love what?
Freight.
Love,
so cargo.
Yeah.
So I said, love cargo. Okay, that's interesting. Love cargo.
We're going to bring love into the equation.
Yeah. So we keep bringing, so he goes, love cargo. So I thought, love cargo. Okay.
Yeah.
So I love it when this person is giving me freight because I get to move their stuff and they're happy with me at the end.
Yes.
I love
good,
when you give me stuff because I get to move it and I make it happy. And I put all these pieces together to make it flow. And me using my creativity, my brain to make it work brings the passion out and gives you exactly what you want.
Yeah. If you did it for the money, there's nothing wrong with that. Right, we're in America, right? We're in the bastion of capitalism. Can't fight that. If you do it for the money, that's fine. You should be successful, most oftentimes. If you do it how you've done it, like, listen, I want to make someone's life better. And it almost sounds like very silly if you're not in that business. Like, if I move this person's cargo from Portsmouth to Long Island, right? That then their business grows, they provide for their family, they do well, and I've become a part of that growth. I've become part of that happiness. That makes me happy. Yes. That almost sounds silly, doesn't it?
Yes.
But it's absolutely how I think people should look at everything they do.
That's right.
When you go into work, right? I've had jobs where I've literally done nothing for the whole day and still got paid, right? It's like, you've heard of those stories where the guy shows up to work. I say guy, I don't want to offend anyone. And he's been hungover. He does nothing.
Yeah.
And he had a horrible night. And you come into work and he doesn't. And he still got paid. That you can do that. But if you walk into work saying, "I'm going to try to make other people's lives a tad easier or a bit more positive, suddenly you there's a little bit of a purpose in your work, and that money seems so much better. It's like the earning of it is like it's more joyous. Like, oh yeah, I just made $800 today doing 5 minutes of work, but I did it with such love, right? And it's like I did it with that helped someone else, and I benefited from that help, no doubt about it. But I feel so much better about it.
It's more fulfilling.
Yeah.
And I see that. You know, I see people come in here and, you know, they're chasing 50 cents or $1.
Yeah.
But really, it's not about that. It's about what did you learn? Who did you become? Are you a part of the collective that's here that trying 100%. To build together and move together? Yeah.
Very difficult to do, by the way, because we're in a town where it's like, it's me.
Yeah, it's you. That's right.
You know, I remember one of the first times I was on TV doing commentary. It was for the Women's League. And there was a whole studio full of people that were working. So we have a producer, we have a director, we have a person that did the stats and everything. And it wasn't fancy, right? But there's a lot of people that were there to make two people sound and look good, me and my co-host, right? And I walked in and I introduced myself to all the people that were working there. I didn't introduce, I was like, hi, I'm Simon Allen, how you doing? I was like, hey, what's your name? Oh yeah, what do you do? Because number one, I genuinely want to know what you do.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. Exactly right.
I do want to, like, I find it fascinating that you're pulling a few levers and you're going to make me sound really good. In fact, I told the sound person, I want to sound like a soft teddy bear. I was like, no one's ever talked to me before. And then I got everyone's name and everything. And then when the broadcast was over, I turned around and said, how do I sound? Do I sound good? I goes, yeah, it's great. Good job, Simon. And I went and I back and I shook everyone's hand and called them by their name. I mean, we're talking about, I think, 15 people. And the director comes and goes, how do you remember all these people's names? I went, how would I not know their names? They just spent 2.5 hours making me look and sound good. I owe them. Yeah. Like, I really owe them. Like, they're the ones that put the money in my pocket. Some of them were actually earning a little bit more than I was, but they put my money in my pocket. So you better believe the least I can do is shake their hand, pre-COVID, and say, you know, thank you very much for your work. I really appreciate it. Thank you for making me look good. Thank you for making me sound good. And I think if you walk into any job and say, well, you know, I want to make sure everyone's fully appreciated and that I want to make their life easier. Well, selfishly, they're going to make your life easier, but you're going to benefit from that, again, selfishly. But again, the whole environment around you suddenly becomes uplifted.
Yes.
And the reason that the Dalai Lama of soccer is because I talk like this sometimes on my shows, and then people are like, who talks like that about soccer?
Yeah.
Like, well, I guess, you know, I do.
Yeah. No.
Now, can I ask you something? When you were in England, what was your perception of the world that you were in, like, as an individual?
I thought it was very confined.
Okay, so like family was confining you?
Yeah, I feel like everything was confined. I feel like everybody ended up in the same places. I felt all the ideas and the creativity that I believed I could. And then I was watching the TV and seeing America and seeing how free it was.
Yes.
And I thought, wow, you know, I don't end up at the airport, or I won't do what everybody else is doing. Yeah. I wasn't the smartest guy in school. Yeah. But I thought, okay, well, I was good with just learning and just being in an environment.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I felt like England was not allowing me to do that, and I saw that this was it's a free world for me.
Yeah, definitely. The US has the greatest PR department in the world. It's called Hollywood.
Yes,
because
Dawson's Creek was the one that I was in.
Was that you wanted to go to Dawson's Creek?
I thought I'm gonna go to college and live a life like that.
Yeah, I think that was my sort of philosophy. Like I would like to see the world because I want to see other people. And Hollywood gave me that, like, oh my God, here, it's great. Lined with gold. You know what I mean? That same, you know, sort of PR that was out from the 30s was out in the 70s and 80s. And I come to America, come to LA, come to Hollywood, you know, you're going to be a superstar. You know, and I think that was it. And you're absolutely right. The confining part wasn't societal, in my opinion. It was community. Yes. Like, I don't know about you, but like at a certain age, you're like, at 13, you're going to go to this school. And then if you changed your mind when you were 30, like you were a has-been. Like no one in England changes their career at 40.
Off with his head.
Yeah, it didn't work. And then someone said, hey, in the US, there's no no. The only no is in your head. So if at 50, if you want to be a lawyer, you want to go back to school, you can do it. It's up to you. Like
You can be a lawyer, a dentist, and a tattoo artist at the same time.
Exactly. The free part, there's nothing free in America, actually. No. I mean, you're free, but there's nothing like, I think it's a little bit different. But the idea that you can change yourself in America is a very delicious sort of concept for a lot of people around the world. I always say there's someone right now in somewhere in the world that is praying to whoever they want to pray to, saying, please get me to LA. Yeah. Please get me to Hollywood, right? And I think that is a great motivator for that path that we talked about. But I don't think it should be the end of it.
Yeah, it's not
for
the
most
end
people.
Yes, no,
it should be. You can do the same thing, and you probably could do the same thing. But I think that shouldn't be. I think you should go get that path, and if it leads you to Hollywood,
see,
do it.
I feel like with being in America or LA, like you're literally on a wheel, and you can't stop.
Yes,
because when you stop, you literally are turning backwards.
Yes,
and the survival of this place is you have to consistently keep up
and improve.
Yes,
and improve and produce more.
Yes,
and that's why Americans don't take holidays.
No, I mean that's the part about working where everyone just gives up and they just work and they work their lives away, and then they say it's too late now. I'm going to vacation when I.
So that goes back to my original question: can you separate your work from the person if you can't even take a holiday? Yeah, that's a really sort of a weird thing. Like I don't think I've taken a holiday in a long time. Like I'm talking about a real one.
I thought this was a vacation for you being here.
Well, I think people will say, why do you want a vacation? You've got an easy job. You get on a mic and you talk. I'm like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so they assume.
Yeah. I mean, don't hate, because I have a really I do fun things, and I want to do that more.
And that's your art. Your art, right?
Well, my artwork. I love doing it.
Why do you do it? Is that your escape?
Creativity has to be something in human beings that has to be explored, or else they go crazy. Yes. Historically, the biggest madmen in the world, I'm not talking madmen like advertisers, but crazy people, were failed artists, the artists that couldn't get, I don't want to go too, but Charlie Manson was a musician. He was a failed musician, and he just blew up. And I'm not Charlie Manson. I'm not going to blow up that way. But he couldn't get his musical creativity out. Yeah. So if you don't channel your creativity into something positive, it somehow goes into the negative. Yes. And sometimes can go to the extreme.
It eats you inside, right?
Oh, worse than that sometimes. You feel like if you don't do something creative, and by the way, it could be baking a cake, by the way. Not necessarily, you don't have to paint Guernica, you know what I mean? You can just do a lot of things. You go crazy, you go nutty, and you internalize that in very negative ways. You put yourself down. So I think being any kind of an artist, and by the way, art isn't, the guy who made that statue, or it could be a lot of things. It could be the way you put on your shirts in the morning, or the tie you select, or the way that you make a dinner. You can be like that. It doesn't need to be grandiose. It doesn't need to be on YouTube. It doesn't have to be. It can be that.
That's right.
I do it because and you can probably call me I'm crazy on this one. I think the universe gives you your ideas. It says, here's your idea, right? And I'm not a believer of like a talent that's been given to you. I believe that somehow the things are right in the universe, and they go, here you go. We think that you're a great custodian of this idea, right? Run with it. And if you run with it, good things happen. If you don't run with it, the universe takes it back and gives it to someone else and says, Simon didn't do that. You do it. Yeah. And then if it was for me, I'd look at that guy and say, oh, that was my idea. Yeah. But the universe just took it because I wasn't doing anything with it. So I think when the universe gives me an idea, I go, I really want to try that. partly for the fear that if I don't do it, someone else is going to do it, and more than likely be really successful at it or be happy about it. And I would have squandered a chance. Secondly, you grow from artistic ideas, right? I don't like people who are like, I don't like art. I don't listen to music. You know, I think opera is horrible. What do you mean? You don't want to grow? You want to do something new?
Experience.
Yeah. So I think I do that to because I think also I look at a lot of artwork and design work and go, God, that's horrible. I can do so much better than that. Why didn't the guy in
1.2 million? I can make that for $50.
Yeah, no, I mean, one example is this. Every so often in the soccer world, they rebrand. I hate rebranding. You just cut history. We want to rebrand.
What's an example of rebranding?
So the Chicago Fire, who's a really good team in Chicago, obviously, had a really nice logo from 1996 till now. We're going to get in the weeds here, folks. Sorry. You can just fast forward if you like. And it was the design was the Chicago Fire Department logo. Yeah. And it was a beautiful design. It was so simple and it read very, very well. And a couple of years ago, they rebranded, and it was the worst logo I've ever seen in my life. It was so bad. It just looked like, I joked like someone's kid said, "Here's a great, you do it," but it wasn't. It was literally a company that got paid a lot of money, and they sold the franchise just a crock of nonsense about what these symbols meant. I went to art school. I mean, I studied with the best artists, that America had produced at the time. And I knew that was just a load of rubbish, So I said, I could do better than that, And so when I saw that, I went, I really need to sort of not focus on just one thing, but expand this art. So I do that, for example, when I see people like, I don't know what to do about my, my living room. I need to buy furniture. I'm like, well, tell you what, let me help you with that. Let me design that for you. Well, do you have any background? I'm like, I kind of do. But you're a soccer guy.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Before I was a soccer guy, I was in art school, and I did animation. Oh, okay. And then when someone said, I need a logo done. I'm like, well, why don't I give you the idea and the concept, and then you go pay some. I don't want to make money off you. You're a friend. But why don't you go pay someone that will actually do the grunt work? Yeah. So I've done that before. I recently, so being a soccer coach, it's all about fundraising. Like the last school I worked for, the equipment budget.
Well, let me start.
So I want to talk about the actual. But go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, so even going into the coaching, where did that even come from in your life? Like, because
I was a horrible soccer player. Okay, that was it. I was a horrible soccer player. And not when I was horrible. My mind was about, I'm going to be a soccer player and get all the girls. Remember Benny Hill, right? Like this. But I didn't put any of the time in to actually work. And then, I was more about, going out for a drink at the pub and, doing this and eating big food and, whatever. But my mind was like, I want to do this. But my body was like, nah, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the pub. And that sort of, and then when it was just fun, like I remember the day that I stopped playing soccer as a kind of a weird story. We were practicing. And I came up with a great idea of going out and having ribs for lunch before practice, right? Oh. Yeah, ribs. Because ribs, of course, right? If that's what you do, you don't. And so we went to this rib place and we ate more ribs than I've ever eaten in my life. And everyone ate them. All the players ate them and stuff. And we had beers and we had, collard greens and we had potatoes and everything, And we're like, okay, we're good. Let's go practice. And during practice, I'm on the pitch practicing, and I'm an older player, and this young kid passes the ball to me, and all I have to do is just put my foot out about 8 inches to stop the ball, and then pass it back. I literally watched that ball pass me at a rate of maybe young turtle rate, like it was so slow. It just went past me, and I looked at it, and I sort of looked over there. There was another player there. I go, yeah, at this, and that player that passed the ball to him goes, Simon, what happened? And I go, he'll get it. And that's how I knew. I was like, I'm done. Like I don't have anything for that. I'm really horrible. And I harken back to the days when I was in England and I was playing soccer, and even my coach was like, "You're horrible." Even at a young age. This is why I don't like England that much. You're horrible, but you got a good mind. And then and that when that ball rolled by me,
you knew what needs to happen, right?
Yeah, I flashed back to that horrible coach. I hate him. God, what a horrible person he was for saying that. But I go, well, he might have seen something, like I hate him then, but now I kind of like, oh. And I go, well, maybe I am a coach. So
he was seeing the strategy in your mind.
I think he knew that I was a cerebral kind of soccer guy and that I would never amount to anything on the pitch, which is fine. No one, it's a long shot. And then so my brother and I, we had the club, and he said, well, why don't you coach the women's team? Well, we don't have a women's team. Yeah, well, you need coach. I don't want to coach women. I don't know anything about coaching women. He goes, well, you don't know anything about coaching men either. So why don't you we'll get a team. And I go, well, that's good. I know how to recruit. I know how to do this. And so in Los Angeles, a lot of women actually college players, and a lot of, again, players that are foreign. They've come over for a holiday over here. And so we had this team, Elephant and Castle Ladies Football Club, and I think we won every tournament that we went into. And there were some players that had never played even soccer before that I coached. And I'm like, I think I have the knack for this. Yeah. And by the way, again, I was fully immersed in my other career. And I thought, okay, I could do it. Again, so sort of the overlapping of it. And then I had a friend of mine who was a assistant coach of an Olympic ice hockey team. And he said to me, I really want to learn how to coach soccer. I'm like, well, I'll be happy. You can coach. You can come be my assistant coach. Yeah. I'm not going to pay you because I didn't have any money. I would have. I didn't have any money. And he goes, deal. But my daughters are like 4 and 5. When they hit 7, I'll work for you for free for 2 years if you coach them for free when they hit 7. And I just went, deal. Never going to happen. Never going to happen. I'll be long gone. You know what I mean? And so he coached. Great guy. Fantastic guy. Still a friend of mine. Still a very good friend of mine. And then when his daughters hit coaching age, he calls me up and goes, remember that deal we made?
It's time.
And I'm like, what deal? I knew what deal it was. I'm like, what deal? I'm not going to. And he goes, yeah, you need to coach my daughter. I'm like, well, is she any good? He goes, she's going to be. I'm like, how do you say that? He goes, because you're going to coach her. I just went, oh, all right. I don't want to coach little girls. Much like I said, I don't want to coach women, professional women. And then I'm like, you know what? This is good. I like this. And so someone said, you have a talent for it. Again, I hate that word because I kind of worked hard at, it took a long time for me to switch from being a men's coach to being, it's a different way of doing it. And so I thought, yeah, and I really loved it. I didn't care how much money I was making. There were some days where I was making a ton of money, some months I was making nothing, but it was very enjoyable. I saw how it changed the worlds that these girls were playing, that were living in. There were girls that came into sort of the team that were meek, just sort of not the kind of, I don't want to say it this way, but they weren't strong girls. They were and I didn't tell them. I wasn't the guy that said, you do this. And I was like I said, listen, this is what happened. I'm not going to be the patriarchal figure and to this day I'm not. I would make suggestions and you saw them grow into like these strong-willed.
So you see the confidence
athletes.
Coming out.
Confidence, and I'm like, wait, this is more than football. This is more than just coaching. It's taking someone, girl or boy, man or woman, taking them from being here and then
evolving them.
Yeah, something amazing.
Yeah.
And I thought, I want to do that. And when I was making a lot of sort of privately coaching, I'm making some good money, again, not very fulfilling. And someone said, you know what we need is more high school coaches. And I'm like, okay. Got offered a high school job. Going back to the equipment budget for this high school, it was $200 a year for 40 girls. I remember. Was
that just Gatorades or was that?
That's just everything. And I said, I've coached girls that have $400 shoes. you want me to come in? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, then yeah, I'm going to be here. And so fundraising has been the thing that I've sort of like, well, I'm kind of a business guy. I can fundraise. I can do stuff like that. So one of the ways that, going back to my art, I would design shirts. I'm actually designing shirts and decals and stuff, putting them on a website. And any money that's been made off that, it goes to buy Fig Newtons and oranges and water.
And we can put a link up.
Yeah. It's like, and it's like, I tell people like, they say, I want to buy a shirt from you. I like your designs. And they're not, weird. It's just interesting designs. I go, great. And I go, I don't want your money. So buy it, and this money's going to go to Fig Newtons. They're like, well, maybe I should buy 2. I'm like, great, because I don't think that I'll make my money doing design work for other people. I'll do that. Yeah. But this creativity is just 100% me. I want it to go to help other people. Right. So there's artists who just do it for the money. Have you ever known someone who's like, well, I'm an artist. I just charge $400 an hour. I'm like, what? That's good. That's great. I'll make sure that I'll half that when I take your money.
The mindset of women and men in soccer or football. I'm not even sure what we call it nowadays.
It depends on your audience. That's what people say. Yeah. So just you call it what if you're my audience, it's football. If it's an American soccer, so yeah.
So when you see the mindset of women and men, and is there a big difference? Like, I know you see the growth of the confidence, but do you see the women coming out more than men, or do you feel the men come already confident that they already have a skill? Is there something that you see in these?
Well, I think when it comes to confidence, I think society has created overly confident men and boys, and on the flip side, not so confident girls. Whether you agree with me or not, I don't know, but that's what I've seen. I've seen parents come up to me and say, "You're a coach?" "Yes." "How much do you charge?" I said, "Well, this much." "My kid's going to play for Bayern Munich." I'm like, wow. And then I've seen the same parent bring their daughter and go, "Can you coach my daughter?" I'm like, "What does she want to do?" "She just wants to play." I'm like, Bayern Munich has a women's team. You don't want? No. She's, what? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it, because you've already sort of, and again, not my business, you're the parent, but you've already sort of set her up to stop her at a certain level. And I don't want football to be that. I want sky's the limit. Yeah. And that's what I do in the coaching. I mean, not every women's team, not every girls team. Women's teams are professional, quite very different. But not only girls team is like this, but the team I was coaching was living in a culture of no. So I'm not going to do this. I would say we should have the cheerleaders not go to the American football games, come to the soccer matches, and do cheerleading for us. We can't do that. Well, why not? Just not done. Yeah, we're going to try it. Yeah. Like that's, I mean, and by the way, that's a kind of a brashness that I think America likes. It's like, no, we'll try it. Yeah. And I think, and I want to bring that to that. And I really enjoy seeing. I mean, I had a player that was so not like confident in herself, and through soccer, like I saw her in 2 years just go from just this meek person to this sort of outstanding individual, like just outstanding to the point where I'm like, okay, I really want to take credit for that, but I know it's not me. I know it's probably this game that we're in, this sort of this match or this football that we're in. So I like that a lot more than dealing with the men's side or the boys' side. Sometimes when I've been offered jobs to coach, boys' high school, and I've always turned them down because it's like, I don't want to. Sometimes you have to ratchet down the confidence. Yes. It's not, I'd rather open the door to.
Yeah, give opportunity.
Yes, right? Yeah, exactly right. I love it. I think it's something that I can talk about with anyone. Like, I want to talk about coaching. I want to talk about these girls, and then I focus onto like, hey, donation. How about it? So yeah, and I think that's part and parcel. Difference in America and here is that I think America and in England is that the soccer over there in England, it's just done. Like there's no really need to worry about financing. You know what I mean? It's like people come out and volunteer. And over here, it's just a struggle to get it done. And I think I want to solve that too while I'm still on this earth. Like I want to make it more like Brazil or more like England, to where everyone plays and we get a big pool of players, and US might win the World Cup one day.
I think that soccer, I mean, even when I first came, like literally I never heard anything about soccer. No one spoke about it. Our college never mentioned it.
Yeah. What college was that?
That was in, I went to Glendale Community College, and I went to, I was actually in Fresno City College.
Glendale Community College has a great women's soccer coach, Glendale, and he is brilliant, and he's a Brazilian, and I know the guy very, very well. He actually is an amazing person. But the problem with Glendale College is that it's like a nursing college. It's like a college where everyone goes to go somewhere else.
That's right.
So you can't really cultivate any kind of culture there. And I forget his name. I think it's Coach Perez, but he's a great coach. And if you're a girl from high school go to Glendale College, that's a fantastic mentor to have. He actually came to my high school to watch my girls and said, that one. And he actually told my girls, this guy is giving you a college coaching education. You better take it. And I mean, no one does that, but that guy. So yeah, you're right. The culture is not here in America. So it's very difficult to talk to people and say, this is what we want you to do. This is, I hate to say it, soccer takes some of those really hard obstacles away from you in that journey. It really does. The really big ones, okay? And I don't mind doing that. Soccer gets people, boys and girls, into college when they had no chance to get there. Yeah. That's an amazing power. Kicking a ball gets you into college to where you can become a doctor. Yeah. Let me be a part of that.
Yeah, taken so much from so many people that I think that it's amazing the knowledge that you're holding.
I think, forget my knowledge, Emma. Forget what I know. The idea of walking on this earth as an island is just not healthy, right? If someone has watched this show from beginning to end and says, what was this show about? I want to say that you got to go out there and open yourself up to everyone that you meet. And I don't care who it is, right? There's a guy busking on the street for $1 and he's singing a song for you. Give him $1 and then ask him what his life's about, right? Talk to your waiter, right? I know they don't like that. Ask them what's going on. The most boring person in the room isn't the most boring person in the room. Sometimes the most boring person in the room is you.
Yes.
All right? So go do that. I think if anything's been said on this show, is like, you will become such a better person, a more loving person, a more thankful person, grateful, open-minded, if you just say, okay, hey, what are you about then? And then have that conversation. Yeah. And not just you, that person, all around. And I think your life will be much better. Yes. I think hopefully everyone who's watched this show gets that from me today.
Thank you very much, Alan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, really nice studio, man.
Thank you.
Really nice.